Let's continue the show here tonight. The Commission for Gender Equality is investigating allegations that pregnant students are being expelled from the University of Zululand. It's been reported that the learners are kicked out when they reach their final trimester. The investigation is based on the Commission's preliminary observations. Marissa van Niekerk from the Commission joins us now. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Marissa. Interestingly enough, when you made this discovery, it was mostly around the dormitories where many of these women would be staying. Perhaps take us a little bit into the investigative work you did to get to this discovery.
Thank you. The Commission for Gender Equality has transformation hearings annually with institutions of higher learning, and this year University of Zululand is one of the universities that we investigated. So prior to our investigative hearings that we have, we meet with SRCs and unions and also get a feel of what is happening at the universities. And this is one of the issues that was raised by the SRC, to say that females who is in their final trimester of pregnancy gets expelled from residences.
The university seemed surprised when you presented them with this matter. In fact, they said they didn't know of its existence. Were they telling the truth?
At this stage, I cannot say yes or no. This is a matter that we will investigate further. We have requested the Vice-Chancellor to please look into the matter and then respond to us in writing on this. But it will also be taken up as a separate investigation in terms of our enabling legislation to take it further.
And of course, this is a form of discrimination. But from the hearings that you conducted and what the SRC members have told you, where is it stemming from? What is the driving factor behind it?
You know what, that will come out in the investigation as we take it further. I think one of the factors might be that University of Zululand is quite inland and it's quite rural area. The university does have a clinic on site. The VC also indicated that she sometimes gets accused of having a hospital there. But because it is such a rural area, you need medical attention for your students, of course. So I think that is also one of the issues that's going to come out clearly.
So is it an issue of, the students staying on campus longer than perhaps they need to because of the access that they have to medical facilities on the campus?
I don't think that's the case. I think they stay in the residences while studying. The question is now, when they are in their third trimester, are they being kicked out, yes or no? And that is what we need to investigate. I don't think they stay longer than what they are supposed to do, but hypothetically speaking, you cannot kick out students in their final trimester out of residence.
Absolutely. Then let's get to the other issue, and of course the main crux of your hearings were around gender transformation, and even there you didn't really find some glowing reviews. And I suppose the situation is not just unique to the University of Zululand, but in fact many institutions of higher education in the country where the gender parity simply is just not going as efficiently as it should be.
Yes, that is correct. These hearings have been held with institutions of higher learning specifically since 2014. And one of the main findings we find every year is that in the upper echelons of top management and senior management, females are underrepresented. And I think it is also a question of having your EE plan in place, having your target set, and working towards that goal, and putting measures in place to promote women into specific positions.
The Gender Commission, when you make recommendations, those recommendations are supposed to be binding as one of the Chapter 9 institutions in the country. For the previous institutions where you have made similar findings against them, have you followed up to check whether or not those institutions are transforming themselves at the rate that you have suggested?
Yes. Every year we have follow-up engagements with the universities. From my department, the legal department, we do follow-ups regularly, and we work hand in hand with the university to try and do the transformation. Thereafter, we have follow-up engagements with them to monitor and evaluate the transformation to date, make further inputs into what needs to be done to work further.
But to the, it's one thing working with institutions to try and then meet that criteria. It's another when year on year you're constantly given excuses as to why it's not being done. And so In that event or circumstance, what do you then do? Because the protests that we've seen, even during Fees Must Fall, I think on the periphery of that, we also had staff who came out who said the transformation issues are not just about decolonizing education, but also around what actually happens within the management structures of the universities.
Yes, definitely. Part of what we do in the follow-ups, as you said, our recommendations are binding, so it's non-negotiable. You have to implement what we say you have to implement. And we follow up strictly on that. To date, I've not had a university who refused to implement what we say. I haven't had that to date. So they do cooperate with us. And I think transformation is also a process. So it's not going to happen within 2 months. And therefore, we do not leave the people behind. We continuously work with the universities as the year progresses. And we do follow-ups to ensure the implementation there.
But what are the deadlines that you then set for yourselves and these institutions? Because again, the fact that it's not something that happens overnight often becomes an excuse for why it's not happening in the long term, because people claim that, they don't have the right kind of skills or the right mix of people to pick from. And sometimes that just turns out to be a blatant lie and an excuse for not wanting to transform.
Yeah, but apart from that, you also have to go just 2 steps back. Is your policies in place? Is your EE plan correct? So we also check with the Department of Labour in terms of what does your EE plan state. You also have to identify the barriers you experience, and we will make recommendations in terms of those barriers. We then look at your policies to see what it is. Do you have a transformation policy? Do you have a sexual harassment policy? Do you have a pipeline on how you're going to elevate these women? Do you have a mentorship program for women? And those are the type of recommendations we would come in. Because it's one thing to say, transform, there must be gender parity at your senior management level, but your baseline is not correct. So if there's no policies in place to do that, it won't happen.
All right. So basically, if I hear you correctly, you're also dealing with the structure that allows the system of this discrimination and I think unevenness within institutions of higher learning to take place.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on to Newsnight. Marissa van Niekerk, she is with the Commission for Gender Equality.